In the early dawn hours of November 4, 1996, under the flickering fluorescent lights of the Lavu Town Police Station in Wuming County, Nanning City, in Guangxi Province, a blood-soaked man burst through the doors in a frenzy of fear and desperation. He was gasping for air, his voice hoarse and broken with terror. "Help! Someone's been murdered!" That man was Ning Wuhai, a truck driver from Lugjuan County. Still trembling, he began recounting the horrifying ordeal he had just survived in a nearby pine forest. A brutal robbery and cold-blooded execution that chilled even the most hardened officers to the bone. Earlier that day, on November 3, Ning and his brother-in-law, Pham Vuong Van, had agreed to transport a shipment of plastic sandals from Guangdong to Yunnan for a client with the surname Hong. It was supposed to be a routine overnight trip. But about 10 kilometers outside Lavu, on a sloping stretch of mountain road, a red car suddenly sped up and swerved in front of them, forcing their truck to a halt. Before they could react, several men leapt from the red sedan, guns drawn, pointing directly at their heads. In that split second between life and death, the only thing the three men could do was plead for mercy. But mercy never came. The assailants bound their hands, blindfolded and gagged them, then shoved them into the cabin of the truck and drove roughly 100 meters into a dense pine forest. There, the gang stripped them of all valuables, and then the nightmare truly began. As night fell, iron rods began to descend, again and again, onto their heads and bodies, until all three lay unconscious and bloodied. Believing them dead, the attackers dug a shallow grave with a pickaxe and shovel. Pham Vuong Van was the first to be buried. But as they began covering him with dirt, the client, Mr. Hong, thought to be dead, suddenly sprang up and made a run for it into the forest. He didn't get far. The gang chased him down and beat him to death on the spot. When they returned to the grave, something was wrong. Ning Wuhai's body was gone. Unbeknownst to them, though gravely injured, Ning had regained consciousness and crawled silently into the forest darkness, hiding among the trees. He spent the entire night dragging his battered body through brush and bramble, seeking help, seeking salvation, and he lived. He was the sole survivor from the hands of these human monsters. Police immediately sealed off the pine forest. Beneath the soil, they found Pham Vuong Van's hastily buried body, bearing more than 30 blunt force injuries. Roughly 60 meters away, Mr. Hong's corpse lay in the open, his skull shattered. But the horror didn't end there. As investigators combed the area, they stumbled upon an older, hidden grave. Inside was another male body, severely decomposed and unidentifiable. Forensics revealed the man had been killed roughly 10 months earlier, struck in the head with a blunt object. What began as a double murder had just become something far darker. The case from November 4 was now linked to a previously undiscovered homicide. A chilling possibility emerged. This wasn't the first time these killers had struck. Though Ning Wuhai had survived, his memory was fragmented, his head injured, his mind clouded by trauma. All he remembered was that the criminals had driven a red diesel truck. That was the only clue. A special task force was formed to investigate. Based on their planning, precision, and awareness of police tactics, the suspects were likely professional criminals, possibly repeat offenders or fugitives. Alerts were sent across Guangxi and Guangdong provinces. But for over 2 months, there was nothing. No leads, no names, and only fear. Then came the turning point. On January 20, 1997, police in Wuming County received word from officers in Sihui City, in Guangdong. 3 days earlier, on January 17, local traffic police had stopped a red diesel truck. Its front plate read Guangxi, but the rear plate was missing. Even more suspicious, when asked to pull over, the driver panicked. He floored the accelerator and fled. Police gave chase and intercepted the truck a few kilometers later. Inside were 3 young men who identified themselves as Guangxi natives. But it was the contents of the truck that truly alarmed officers. A sawed-off shotgun, a pickaxe, a shovel, iron rods, and duct tape. Every single item matched the tools used in the pine forest murders. The 3 men were detained immediately. Their names: Li Hai, age 27, Zhou Junhu, age 21, Fan Nguyen Chi, age 20. 2 were from Wuming County. Interrogation began, but the suspects said little. Li Hai admitted only to carrying tools for a future robbery that hadn't yet occurred. The others refused to speak. After 3 fruitless days of questioning, Sihui authorities forwarded their files to the Guangxi task force. When the special investigators reviewed the case, everything fell into place. The red diesel truck, the weapons, the suspects' hometowns, and one more detail: Li Hai had a prior criminal record. The suspects were transferred back to Guangxi for further investigation. For 2 days, Li Hai and Zhou Junhu pretended to be mute, refusing to answer a single question. They believed that without hard evidence, the police had no case. But on the morning of January 25, forensic results arrived. One of the pickaxes recovered from the truck had a broken edge. That fragment matched perfectly with a shard of metal found at the pine forest crime scene. The illusion shattered. Faced with undeniable proof, Li Hai finally confessed. Not only to the murders on November 4, but to a chilling series of killings spanning 10 years. Li Hai was the ringleader of a 7-man gang. 6 had prior convictions. Between 1987 and 1997, they committed at least 6 robbery murders, resulting in 8 deaths and 1 serious injury. They were also involved in theft, fraud, and drug trafficking. Their first victim? A man lured in 1987 by Li Hai and Hong Du under the pretense of transporting sandals. They murdered him mid-route and buried his body in a wasteland in Wuming County. 10 years later, guided by Du's confession, police exhumed the skeleton. To this day, the victim's identity remains unknown. The gang's method was cruelly efficient. Pick a remote location, pose as freight clients, murder the driver, steal the cargo, and vanish. After Ning Wuhai survived and alerted police, the group scattered and laying low across regions. When Lunar New Year 1997 passed without arrests, they thought the heat had died down. They prepared to strike again, but this time, the fate caught up with them. Li Hai's confession cracked open not just one case, but a decade of bloodshed. Yet even with the truth laid bare, the weight of what they uncovered would haunt those who listened, especially the ones who had to listen first.
I've seen death before. I've chased killers down alleys, pulled bodies from rivers, but nothing has ever haunted me like the pine forest. It was just past dawn, the 4th of November, 1996, when he stumbled in, bloodied, trembling, barely able to speak. Ning Wuhai, a truck driver, said they were ambushed in the woods. Said 2 others were already dead. We followed him back into that forest, and I swear to this day I've never heard silence scream so loud. The ground was soft, freshly dug. And there, in the cold dirt, we found a grave, and then another, and then another. That place didn't feel like part of the world anymore. It felt like death had set up camp there. The killers? Cold, calculated. They didn't just want money. They wanted to erase people, bury them like they never existed. When we caught them, Li Hai barely flinched. Like he'd done it so many times, it didn't even register as murder anymore. People ask what justice looks like. I tell them, it's not the courtroom, not the sentence. It's a man crawling through the dirt in the dead of night refusing to die. That's justice. That's Ning Wuhai. I still dream about that forest, the graves, the blood and the pine needles. And sometimes, I wonder, how many more are out there, still buried, still waiting to be found?
But while the investigation came to a close, the echoes of fear remained in Lavu town. One local resident remembers it like this.
People say the forest still remembers. You walk past it, even now, and it feels colder somehow, like the trees are watching. I live just a few miles from where it all happened. I remember hearing dogs barking all night. Then the next morning, someone said a man had come limping into the town police station, covered in blood. Word spread fast, too fast. At the tea shop, folks whispered about bodies buried in the woods. First one, then 2, then a third. No one knew what was real and what was rumor, but we all started locking our doors after that, even in the daytime. My cousin worked with a search team. He told me they found old tools, broken ones, like someone had done it before, more than once. Said there were bones in the earth, not just fresh graves. But what stuck with me most was the silence. For weeks, it was like the forest held its breath. No birds, no wind, just quiet, as if even nature was mourning. After they caught the killers, they said it was over. But I don't think so. That kind of evil doesn't just disappear. It leaves something behind. I still walk past that pine forest sometimes. I take the long way home, and when I do, I don't look back.
On April 3, 1997, the Intermediate People's Court of Nanning held a special session. Li Hai, Hong Hongdu, Zhou Junhu, and 2 additional accomplices were sentenced to death for murder and robbery. One defendant received a suspended death sentence, and another was sentenced to 10 years in prison. The case of the grave in the pine forest was officially closed. But the terror it left behind still lingers. To this day, the people of Guangxi shudder when they remember those dark nights and the monsters hiding in human skin.